Welcome back, everybody, to the second episode of Real Talk Realty Podcast, where we put the real in real estate. This is our second episode, and we just started last week, and we had some technical difficulties getting things ready today, but I think we're back in action with the help of Rob Kropp, getting here in the final seconds before the clock started and helped us. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, let's just say. So, and we still are, because Gabby loves pressing random buttons. Are you done?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
I'm Louis Namick.
I'm JD Crisp. This is
Gabby Robinson.
We're super excited to get back with you guys for another week. Thanks for joining us today. And what are you guys doing? What's going on? What did you guys have going on this week?
Well, for me, I have a showing tomorrow. House came back on the market that my clients wanted to see, and they were very disappointed because they didn't get to see the house.
Okay, so they hadn't even made an offer on it. They wanted to see it. It went off the market because it went under contract, and it came back.
Now, I tell everybody this. The house was on the market 109 days.
Oh.
Jeez.
And the minute my clients wanted to go see it, it was a no-go.
Oh, my gosh.
They had an offer in. So I messaged the agent. I said, hey, listen, I have very interested clients. They want to come see this house. They got cash. Let me know if it comes back on the market. And I just got the message.
Oh, really? Just today?
Just today.
How long ago did it come off the market?
It came off the market about 4 days ago.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't under contract long.
No.
Did you find out why?
I have not, because remember the last episode we spoke about agents that don't call you back?
Oh, yeah, it was one of those.
Yeah, well, that's my situation with this agent.
Oh, gotcha. But my whole point about, because last week, obviously, we talked a little bit about agents that don't pick up their phone, and I was getting super fired up. But the main reason I get fired up about that is because when you're the listing agent and you're not picking up your phone on behalf of your sellers, you are doing them an injustice. Your job is to get them the most money for the house and relay their wants and the needs and what they're expecting out of a good offer to potential buyers. So if you're not picking up your phone and articulating that to those, prospective buyers, you're doing an injustice to your seller.
And to that point,
Yeah.
this agent did lose for his clients, because my clients, he knew that my clients were interested.
Oh, wow.
He knew my clients wanted to go. He knew my clients had cash.
Yeah.
And he didn't convey that to his client.
And if he would have, they would have probably said, "Oh, it's not," and that's so dangerous. You can get in so much trouble. It has nothing to do with you as the agent. It has everything to do with the client, the buyer, or the seller, and doing right by them. And I've seen, even so people will issue deadlines all the time, like for listing agents. If they have a hot home and they get several offers, they're going to issue a deadline. That's very common. But even if, let's say that my client saw it that same day and I submit an offer and it comes in 30 minutes after the deadline, they still have an obligation to actually present that offer.
Absolutely.
And I have seen, it doesn't happen too often, thankfully, but sometimes you'll have an agent who just is tired of the phone calls, tired of getting all the offers, and they just want to wrap it up. And I've had times before where I've had to tell a listing agent, hey, listen, you need to get this in front of I know it's the best. Sometimes you just write an offer where you just know. You ever have one of those?
Yeah.
You write it, you just know it's a winner. And you're like, hey, get this in front of them. And you can just tell that they're like, oh, well, we kind of already. And I've had them say, well, we've already accepted it. And I'll say, was it ratified? Do you have signatures on the paper? And they're like, okay, I'm sending it now. Please present it.
With that said, so I also have I had a listing appointment the other day, and she did sign, and she's ready to go to market with her house.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Where is it at?
It's in my neighborhood, actually.
Really?
East Church.
One thing for the viewers out there that don't know, Louis is single-handedly dominating his neighborhood. He has basically came in. He has gotten listings from people in his neighborhood who couldn't get their home sold with other realtors and other agencies. Redfin. Don't touch any more buttons, Gabby. You don't know which ones. We got to write them down. But he's come in and taken over listings. We talked about it briefly, I think, last week. But the story with the Redfin one was you came in right behind him and had been on the market for what, like 90 days or something crazy?
94 days with no offers. Nobody showed up to any of the open houses. The home wasn't marketed right. It was marketed as a 2-bedroom when in fact it was a 3-bedroom. Redfin had it way overpriced. And so after he fired them, I came in, did some adjustments, and
Right.
sold in 3 days.
That's, yay. Okay, you got it right that time. Yeah, that's some good stuff there. And, speaking to that point kind of about, pricing and all of that, I'll tell you, aside from this lull that we have kind of here in December, that space between Thanksgiving and Christmas and the New Year, aside from that, outside of that time period, if your house is on the market, okay, and it's going past the average days on market, and by that I mean the average amount of time that it goes from actively listed to under contract. If it starts going beyond that in your specific location, that is a sign of only one thing. And some people, listen, I'll tell you, it's funny. They'll say it's either condition or price, right? It's always price. Because if the condition is what, it doesn't matter what the condition is, right? Because it does matter, but if it's a bad condition home, then it just needs to be lowered price. That's what it is.
Well, the condition regulates the price.
Right, exactly.
My listing that I actually just had go live last week, we did an open house for it. It's only been on the market 1 day. There was only one person who came to the open house.
Ugh.
No private showing. So that also gives you an idea, like it's overpriced. Because when you go and you're looking at houses, the first thing you're seeing is price. If the price is too high, you're not going to bother going to see it in person.
Okay, so let me give you a perfect example. And this happens all the time. I have clients because, okay, so like similar to not comparing cars and houses, but when you go to buy a car, right, you're looking at Kelley Blue Book, or let's say you're trading in a car, you're looking at Kelley Blue Book because you want to know how much the dealership's going to give you, right? All of that is just based in real estate. When you're looking at Zestimates, or I'm referring to the values that they assign on the Zillow pages or the Realtor.com or whatever these third-party websites are saying. That's based off of an algorithm, right? It's based off an algorithm in that location. They're not taking into account things that may have either changed in the property, whether they added a bedroom or they added a bathroom, or maybe the square footage. They finished off some more space, added some more square footage. So that's why I try to tell people. I've had people say, is the Zestimate accurate? And I'll say, listen, I've seen it hit and I've seen it miss far off. And that's where, trusting a professional to put together a comparable market analysis is going to come in and get you way closer to what the reality is. I always compare those estimates and everything to the Kelley Blue Book values of cars. That's why I brought that up, because you go to the dealership and they'll be like a couple $1,000s off. It's just a point of reference. It gets you kind of close sometimes, but that's why you trust a professional.
So one of my listings in Flintstone that took like 4 months to sell, the Zestimate, every time I lowered the actual price on MLS, it would lower. So that goes to show you too, it's not 100% accurate,
right?
Because it kind of bases the estimate based on what you're pricing it.
Yeah.
So it changes, and it's like, okay, clearly it's not 100% accurate.
Yeah, and also let's say it's an older home, right? But it's in a neighborhood or close by a neighborhood where they're doing tons of new construction. The price on yours will be inflated based off of all the new construction that's being sold in that area. So that's why it can just be a little off.
Well, number one thing in selling a house is getting the house priced correctly.
Yeah, it really is.
That's why it's so important to get a good real estate agent who knows what they're doing and completing a comparative market analysis.
Absolutely. And, I've show up to listing appointments. I would actually say more times than not, I'll show up to a listing appointment, and that's the thing where these third-party websites will come in. And we are in an era now, the technology and information era, where everything is at the fingertips of everybody, right? So anybody can go on, Google their property, and it's going to tell them a estimated value. And sometimes people get that once they see that number and it's an attractive number, they can't get it out of their head, and they just want to stick to that. They think that that's what they should get. And I just had this conversation with a client, and my favorite thing to say to kind of show them is the dangers of overpricing your home is far greater than the danger of underpricing your home.
100%.
And so many times people will say, well, let's try it at this price. Well, you know what happens when you try it, right? Let's say a house, let's say everything in the neighborhood's going for right around $500,000, and you want to try $525. not only are you going to be not visible in the marketing to anybody who set their budget at 500, but if the buyer's agents that are helping the buyers in that area look up the price and they do the CMA on your listing, they're not even going to bother showing their client if it's overpriced, because that wouldn't be good of them to do to their buyer to push an overpriced property onto them like that.
And people don't realize how many people out there that need to buy a home are shut out because you overpriced your house.
Right.
They don't really understand that.
Exactly.
Pricing a house is so important that it has to be done right.
Has to be. And it can be detrimental to the entire transaction because you don't get to change it. So you guys know, once you set the price, you can, like I said, you can put it up, you can put it down, but the more you mess with it in general, it just looks sus.
Yeah. Especially because like most of the time you'll get clients that say, I saw this, but they kept changing the price. Something's wrong with it. Like it immediately brings red flags to whoever's seeing it that there's been so many like price adjustments in the last 30 days.
Well, if I see the price go up, and let's say it was on the market last month and it comes back on the market, my immediate question is, what did you do to the property? What did you add? And sometimes they're like, well, we just figured we'd know,
Well, and another thing too, I think I've had a lot of clients who, just because a house has been sitting on the market for like more than 30 days, they automatically think something's wrong with it, right?
Right.
And so it'll make them not even want to go see it. And so that's another thing too, like if you price it right the first time, chances are you're going to sell it, in less than 30
and
days.
once people think that something's wrong with the house, then that real estate agent is going to end up calling the seller and saying, guess what, we're going to have to lower it again.
Yeah.
They're going to find themselves in a spiral downfall.
Interestingly enough, remember that listing I had, right? Guy wanted to price it at $960.
Yeah.
Rob and I are like, it's not worth that.
Right.
Maybe $850. It was a very difficult client, right? But we had, I think, like one showing in 4 months. He refused to drop the price, but was also saying that we were horrible agents.
One of those.
This and that. He was just like, we told you to price the house low the first time, right? We told you what to price it at. On top of that, he had an appraisal done. So the appraisal said how much it was worth, but he was disputing it. Long story short.
Oh, so he was not only not listening to you, but then
he didn't listen to the appraiser either.
Wow.
So his house sat after like 95 days or something. We let him go because it was like, at this point, we're not going to win with him. He listed with another a real estate agent. Another 4 months passed. He just sold it, and he sold it for what we told him to list it for.
That is so annoying. But that's crazy, and people don't like to be wrong.
They don't.
When I am, and one thing I try to do, because again, we do this full time, we have to remember that they're not doing this. They're only hearing what we tell them, and we usually just form this relationship. So sometimes, people don't gel, and maybe they just you don't have the relationship or the rapport to give them the information. But I try to never make people feel wrong, even when I know that they're wrong. I try to, because like they'll never come back. Like he's too embarrassed. He couldn't call you back.
Yeah, no. And I mean, but at this point, it's like looking in. I remember that last conversation that we had, and he said, I very well understand that I could fire you guys, get another agent, and then I have to drop it anyway. So in my mind, it's like, okay, if you know that, why not just drop it? If you would have dropped the price, or if you would have listed it at the price that we told you, the price that the appraisal was at in the springtime, in the hot market, you would have most likely got above asking price. Yeah. But because you were hard-headed, because you wanted the most money, and because you thought it was worth $960,000, whatever, you let it sit on the market for 7-8 months while you're paying mortgage.
Right. And here's the thing. The market is always going to tell you what to do. This is not a guessing game. When we put together these CMAs, it's based off of real data in that specific location. So I can pull up a zip code if a seller is interested in seeing, okay, how long is this property you think it's going to take to sell? There's right there, the information is the average days on market. So, and if we get past that average days on market, that's when we have to listen and be receptive to what the market's telling us. And at that point, it's overpriced, right? Yeah. And again, this is all kind of outside this weird like lull that we're in. I'm not referring to time right now because, like I said, I still have listings that I'm just prepping and waiting to go live in January because of that. But I have a pretty good story about one time when I was working with an investor client who was purchasing homes with me, and then he would immediately sell them. And sometimes while he was in the middle of flipping them and doing the things and had the contractors all in there, sometimes he would, he would have a tendency to spend a little bit more than what he was initially planning to spend. And, I would tell him up front, hey, this is the most that it's going to sell for. I don't care if you add gold-plated counters, in there. It is not going to sell for more than this price. But, there was one particular property where he had spent a decent amount of money in there, and it was definitely more than he had told me and more than he had planned to do. And he said, well, JD, I want to try it at this price. I told him no. We had a pretty good relationship at this point in time and did several properties. But I told him, I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's going to sell at this price. And I think what it'll do, actually, is it'll attract a lowball offer. And he said, well, no, let's do it. So, okay, sometimes you just got to let people find out the hard way. So we listed it at his price. I think in this scenario, he wanted to list it at $325, and I wanted to list it at $299. So we listed it at $325. We got, the normal hot, right when it hits the market, we got a decent amount of showings right away, and then it just went ghost. Yep. So I called him back, and I said, hey, look, it's time to do that adjustment. And he really didn't want to do it. And I said, look, just because we make the adjustment down to this price doesn't mean that's what we're actually going to sell it for. The idea is that we're getting it back at the top of everybody's algorithms while they're scrolling. We're getting it more attention. They're going to promote it on all those third-party websites. And hopefully we can actually sell it and get multiple offers. So we did drop it down, $25K, which seems like a rather large drop, but it wasn't, because that's what it was supposed to be the whole time. We dropped it down to $299. 3 days later, multiple offers. And no, we never got close to 325, but we were right around 315, which was...
That's good.
And so that is an example where when it comes to price drops, it doesn't necessarily mean that is the end-all, be-all. The idea is to get more people in the door, more attention, multiple offers. That's the name of the game. Most of these sites, they let you set your price increments in 15 to 25K increments when you're searching for homes. So if you're putting it at 530, you're not going to show up to anybody who's looking at 500 as their top budget.
Another thing too that I was thinking about, that I have a lot of sellers that say when we're trying to figure out what to price our house at, they're like, well, we can always start high and just lower it as we go. They don't understand
I just got a couple
that that's not how it works. Like, yes, you can do that, but like we were saying, if you price it high and you continue doing all these price drops,
it just attracts negative attention. I feel like
people think like
they're gonna ask questions.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? Why didn't it sell? So it's like ladies, right? Okay, so ladies like guys who have the ability to get ladies. Nobody wants the guy that doesn't get any ladies, right? So it's like the house has been sitting on the market. It's now let's say the house on the market is a guy. And the ladies are the buyers. They're looking, well, nobody's bought it yet. There's probably something wrong with it. True. What else is going on in Gabby's world?
In Gabby's world, let's see. I wrote 2 offers in the past 24 hours.
Here she goes again.
Yep.
All right, yep, okay.
So we'll see. Fingers crossed for those.
She literally, was one of them the one you just sent, like right before we press record?
Yeah, like right before we press record, that was the one that I sent. So hopefully.
Did you end up putting an expiration on it?
I didn't, no.
Okay, good. I don't
believe in expirations.
Oh, I don't usually do an expiration, but sometimes you get those clients that they're like, I don't want to wait 5 days for a response. I want a response in 24 hours. And then it's like,
just not the way the world works.
I just think that when you put an expiration or a deadline on an offer, you antagonize and make angry.
I feel like when I put an expiration on an offer, I picture like a husband and a wife in their kitchen at the kitchen island, and the husband's like pacing on his phone. He's like, "Should we do it, hon? Should we do it? I don't know. You know what? Tell him no. We don't want an expiration.
You're rushing us. We don't want to do that.
I don't want to make a decision. I wouldn't do it.
I can see how it can like turn someone off. The Spring Ridge listing that I had, we had received an offer that had an expiration. And the guy, like, he took it as an insult. He was like, my house has only been on the market for like 7 hours, and you're telling me that I have to let you know in the next 5 hours.
It can backfire on you.
So
it's not a good thing to put.
And even if he has the best offer, even after like a couple of days, they're gonna be like, no. I actually had a guy one time. This is a true story. I had a seller one time who got an offer, a quick offer right after going on the market, and it had an expiration date on it. And he said, no way. No, I'm not accepting anything. Not until Monday when we see what happens over the weekend. Well, over the weekend, we ended up getting some offers, and the first offer that had the expiration date was like $1,000 better than one of these other offers. It was still the best offer, and he said, nope, I'll take this one, because he didn't try to put me in a corner.
Oh my God.
That's real. I was like, dang, okay.
Yeah.
Some people, it's not always about the money, people, so just remember that. Let's say there's a listing, right, and it's super hot, and you are getting ready to write an offer for your clients. You've already talked to the listing agent. You found out there's 4 offers on the table. What are some things that you guys do to kind of make your offer a little, stand out a little bit more and be more appealing, and not just price? I'm taking price off the table. What are some other terms in the offer that you can do or change and manipulate to be more favorable?
Well, one of the first things I do is I call the lender and actually ask the lender, hey, can we close this in 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Instead of your traditional 30 days,
right.
Let's do 3 weeks. That's very, very enticing to a seller.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing is like the inspection, especially if you're like in a hot market, like, spring and summer. Typically what I try to do, if you can do like a pre-inspection, that way you can waive it on the offer, but your client still has had the inspection. It's just,
Now that is that is like an OG, that is a really good secret weapon. I don't even know if we're going to post this just because, but one of the things that Gabby's talking about is we have some home inspectors that offer these awesome, they call them walk and talks. Yeah. And what you do is, before the deadline of said hot home, you show up on maybe a second showing with your home inspector. Now, they're not doing as thorough of a job. They're not getting on the roof necessarily, but they're doing a walk and talk. They're looking through the house. They're looking at the big ticket items, and they're just seeing if there's any red flags that pop up. And, I would never personally, and I know these two would never do that. I'm never going to advise you to waive a home inspection ever. But what I can tell you is what are the people doing in this area that are winning. And I'll tell you that. And then there's a paper I'm going to have you sign that says that that I'm saying to get a home inspection. But yes, that is true. And I know it sounds so crazy and super scary to a lot of you buyers out there that, oh my God, the thought of buying a home without getting it home inspected. Yeah, it is scary. I'm totally with you on that. The one way around it is to show up on maybe a second showing with your home inspector. And it can kind of ease the stress a little bit, give them the confidence to write it without a home inspection. Tell them about the other type, I guess I would say, home inspection that is super favorable in a multiple offer situation.
And as is, without
informational
the right,
only.
Informational only.
Yeah.
Where your inspector goes in, does the normal professional inspection of the house, gives the buyer a report, and it's just for their knowledge.
Yeah. And so basically what you're saying up front to this prospective seller is that, hey, we're going to get a home inspection, and we're telling you up front that whatever the results are of it, we're not going to ask you to fix anything. We're either going to take it
As
the
it
way it
is.
sits, regardless of the home inspection, or you're saying I reserve the right to pull out. I always want the one that I can terminate, right? The right to
Absolutely.
terminate, because I just had one of my best friends is buying a house over in West Virginia. The home inspection was fine. It was appropriate with the type of house and the age of the house. But then we got the septic people out there, and the tank had all kinds of problems. Luckily, we were able to get the seller to credit us back the full amount of what it would cost to put in an entire new inspection or a new septic tank. So that ended up working out. But if I wouldn't have had that right to terminate in there, hey, bro, we just bought a house with a poop tank that doesn't work. Thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to get with you guys next week. And any closing words with you guys?
Nope, just
See you next time.
have a happy holiday and get your Christmas shopping done.